Epictetus had this one line: "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." That's the dichotomy of control. It's a 2,000-year-old idea, a key to dismantling anxiety, to building a kind of inner freedom. So we're going to look at that, how you tell what's truly yours to command, and what never was, how deep acceptance unlocks a real tranquility, and why letting go of power over the external world, that's the only path to power within yourself. Stoic freedom starts with a classification. It's a line you draw between what's up to us and what's not. The ancient teachers were clear on this, Epictetus especially. What's up to us is a short list, our judgments, the opinions we form, our desires, what we choose to want, our aversion, and our effort, the direction of our will. That's it. That's the whole list. Everything else is in the other category. The body we have, our reputation, our possessions, what other people do or think, the weather, the past, the outcome of any project. It's a statement of fact. To confuse the two, to put something from the second category into the first, that's the root of frustration. It's chronic stress. Take a job interview. You can prepare your answers, you can research, you can choose your attitude. That's your effort. That's up to you. But the hiring manager's decision, whether they like your handshake, an unexpected question, another candidate with more experience, none of that is up to you. To worry about the outcome is to spend energy trying to control a world that operates on its own rules. This practice is active discernment. It's not giving up. It's focusing your power where it actually exists. So, think of 3 things causing you stress right now: a relationship, a financial worry, a health concern. For each one, ask, is this entirely within my control? Can I command it like a king commands his own mind? Or does it depend on factors outside my will? Just sorting them, putting them in their proper category, that begins to loosen their grip. You start to see where your energy is going, into battles you were never equipped to win. We put so much energy into controlling things we can't control, and it comes from this conditioning, this deep training. From when we're young, we learn this equation. Effort leads to outcome. Study, get grades, work hard, get promoted, be kind, get kindness back. It works enough to feel true. It builds the world around us. But it also sets a trap. It teaches that the outside world is a reflection of our will. So when the outcome doesn't match, we don't question the formula. We try harder, we double down on control. We think if we worry enough, plan enough, demand enough, we can make reality comply. That's the illusion of control. It's a story we tell ourselves because there's a fundamental truth. The world is uncertain, and the ego hates that. It wants to be the author, the main character shaping every event. To admit so much is outside our authorship feels like powerlessness, so we cling. We try to control a partner's habits to feel secure. We rage at a traffic jam like our anger could melt the cars. We fixate on a single comment about our work, trying to mentally rewrite a conversation that's already over. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He reminded himself not to be surprised by world events as if they were strange. Does the fig tree surprise you when it bears figs? Then don't be surprised by external events. They're the natural fruit of a world operating by its own causes. Your surprise, your frustration, that's the added layer. That's you bumping against a wall you insisted wasn't there. This illusion drives so much anxiety. Anxiety is often just the gap between what we wish we could control and what we actually can. It's the mental effort spent trying to solve a problem that has no solution on our terms. Think about last week. Find one situation where you felt a spike of stress. Maybe a family member making a decision you disagreed with, or a work project waiting on someone else's delayed part. In that moment, you probably felt ownership over the outcome. Your peace was tied to it going a certain way. That feeling, that knot in your chest, is the signal. It means you've put something from the not up to us category into the up to us category. You're holding the leash, but the dog isn't yours, and you're bewildered by why it won't heel. Stoicism changes what success means. It's not about winning the prize, it's about how you run the race. That's the real shift. Your worth stops being about the world's reaction. It becomes about the quality of your own action. For the Stoics, the only true good is a virtuous character. The only true bad is a vicious one. Everything else is indifferent. Every outcome, every event, it's not that outcomes don't matter, they do, but they don't define you. What defines you is the attempt, the intention, the effort you bring to the moment. That's the difference between a goal and an aim. A goal is an external target, like getting a promotion or hitting a certain income. It's out there, dependent on countless things. An aim is internal. It's your commitment to act with integrity, with diligence and courage in pursuit of that goal. You can fail at a goal while succeeding perfectly in your aim. And you can achieve a goal while failing miserably in your aim, maybe through dishonesty or by cutting corners. Seneca wrote about this. He said the wise person focuses on the action, not the fruit of the action. You are in command of your choices, your judgments, the energy you put forth. The harvest, though, belongs to nature, to fortune, to circumstances beyond your command. To tie your peace to the harvest is to make yourself a hostage to the weather. Think of an athlete. Their goal is to win a medal, to set a record. But if their entire sense of self is tied to that podium, their mental state becomes fragile. Every practice is anxiety about the future. Every competitor is a threat. The Stoic athlete focuses on the aim. Their intention is to train with discipline today, to respect their body, to push their limits with courage, to honor the spirit of the sport. The final score is the result. It's data. It provides feedback. But it is not the measure of their virtue. Their virtue was shown in the 1,000 small choices that led to the starting line. This reframe is liberating. It means you can engage fully with the world without being broken by it. You can pursue ambitious projects, build relationships, strive for excellence, all while holding your peace safely within, anchored to your own effort. So bring this to your own life. What's a current goal where you can shift your focus entirely to the quality of your effort? Is it a creative project? Focus on the honesty of your expression, not the likes or sales. Is it a difficult conversation? Focus on speaking with kindness and clarity, not on controlling the other person's response. When you make this shift, you reclaim your agency. You're no longer waiting for the world to approve of you to feel successful. Your success becomes a daily practice. A private victory you can achieve regardless of what happens outside. Between an external event and your reaction, there's a space. Stoicism is about widening that space. It's a practice of cognitive detachment, observing without being hooked. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent. It's that pause, the pause between the first impression a situation makes on your mind and your decision to believe it, to give it your full emotional endorsement. An impression is just that, an impression. It's the mind's initial, raw data point. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and the impression flashes. That person is rude and dangerous. Your child spills a drink, and the impression is, this is a disaster, they are being careless. These impressions arrive automatically. They're colored by our biases, by past experiences. But here is your power. You don't have to assent. You don't have to say, yes, this is absolutely true and I must react accordingly. Epictetus put it plainly. He said, men are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of them. The event itself is neutral until you judge it. The car cutting you off is a fact of physics and metal. The spilled drink is a liquid meeting a surface. The disturbance, the anger, the frustration that comes from your judgment, your assent to that initial, often unhelpful, impression. This is where you build resilience. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about inserting a moment of observation. Think of receiving critical feedback at work. The initial impression might be, I am a failure or my boss dislikes me. That sting is real. The practice is to feel that sting, to acknowledge it, and then to consciously step back. To say to yourself, this is an impression of threat. Let me examine it. Is the feedback about one project or my entire worth? Is there any useful data here, separate from the delivery? By creating this distance, you move from being a reactor to being an observer of your own mind. You reclaim the gap. So today, try a simple exercise. When a strong emotional impression hits, label it silently. Just name it. This is an impression of injustice. This is an impression of panic. This is an impression of insult. That act of naming creates the space. It reminds you, this is just an impression, not yet a truth. It's a suggestion from your mind, not a command you must obey. In that widening space, your freedom grows. What if the biggest thing in your way was actually your best teacher? That's the step past acceptance. It's called Amor Fati. A love of fate. It's not just putting up with things. It's not passive. It's an active embrace, a kind of joyful embrace of reality, exactly as it shows up. The Stoics worked on this. Nietzsche later used the phrase, it means seeing the whole universe unfolding, your life inside it, as a kind of system. Everything that happens, good or bad, is raw material. It's the stone you're given to carve your character. A smooth, easy stone might let you make something simple, but a rough stone, a jagged piece, that forces you to become a better sculptor. It asks for more skill, more patience, more vision. Marcus Aurelius wrote a command to himself, simple, love what happens to you, love the thread of fate spun for you. What could be more fitting? He meant to treat each event as if you had chosen it yourself, because if you had chosen it, you'd find a way to use it, you'd see its purpose. That flips everything. A job loss isn't a disaster, it's a forceful redirection. The universe just closed a door. The Amor Fati response is to stop staring at the locked door and turn, look with curiosity at what hallways are now visible. It's material for practicing resilience, for rediscovering your skills, for building courage to try a new path. A difficult person isn't a mistake. They're a patience trainer. They're the sparring partner who shows you where your temper still lives, where your boundaries need work, where your compassion can stretch. Even an illness, a physical limitation, it becomes a teacher in mindfulness, in appreciating moments of ease, in learning a different kind of strength. This mindset changes suffering from something that happens to you into something that happens for you, for your development. It asks you to look at the event. Ask what virtue this situation makes possible. If it's hardship, it makes courage possible. If it's injustice, fairness. If it's loss, gratitude for what was, and resilience for what will be. Your freedom expands here because when you love fate, nothing can truly harm you. Nothing can derail your core project, which is building your character. Everything becomes fuel. So take a recent setback, something that felt purely negative, a missed opportunity, a plan that fell apart, a criticism that stung. Reframe it through Amor Fati. Don't just accept it happened. Ask what it made space for, what quality it invited you to practice. How this is, strangely, the exact teacher you needed. This isn't pretending it feels good. It's recognizing the feeling isn't the point. The point is what you build with the pieces you've been given. Your true self isn't just a leaf in the wind. It's more like a fortified city on a hill. The Stoics had a name for that. They called it the Inner Citadel. The idea is that at your center, there's a place of absolute sovereignty, a fortress. External events can't actually breach it. Your body can feel pain. Your reputation can be attacked. You can lose your possessions, but those are the outer walls, the suburbs. They're vulnerable. That's how things are in the physical world. Your core faculty, though, your power of judgment, your ability to choose, that resides in the citadel. and its gates only open from the inside. No insult, no failure, no misfortune has the power to force its way in. It can only enter if you, the guardian, open the gate, if you grant it passage. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this constantly. He wrote that you can retreat into your own soul at any moment. Nowhere is more peaceful, he said, more untroubled. That wasn't an escape from reality. It was a return to the only reality he could truly command. It's where you go to remember who you are, separate from what's happening to you. Think of a time you faced harsh criticism, maybe in a meeting or online. The initial blow lands, the words are spoken, the judgment is cast. That's an external event. It exists. What happens next is the choice. Do you let those words define your inner state? Do you let them storm the citadel, topple your sense of worth, scatter your peace, or do you retreat inside? You observe the attack from the high walls of your own reason. You ask, is there truth here I can use? Is this person's opinion within my control? You realize their words are just sounds, letters on a screen. They hold no inherent power to diminish you. Your virtue, your character, remains untouched unless you decide otherwise. The same applies to physical hardship. During an illness, the body is weak. It's confined, that's a real challenge, but the inner citadel isn't the body. It's the mind that observes the illness, the spirit that chooses patience over self-pity. That finds a quiet gratitude for a moment of relief, that decides how to respond with dignity to limitation. The sickness affects the outer territory, but it cannot touch the ruler within, not unless you surrender the throne. So what are the walls of your citadel made of? Visualize it for a moment. Its foundations are your core values. The principles you won't compromise. Its walls are built from practiced discernment, the ability to separate what is yours from what is not. The gate is guarded by your pause. That space between impression and assent, and inside, in the central courtyard, burns the fire of your intention, your commitment to act with virtue. Regardless of circumstance, this isn't a metaphor for isolation. It's the source of unshakable engagement, because when you know you have a place of absolute safety to return to, you can engage with the world. This chaotic, beautiful, difficult world, you can engage without fear of being destroyed by it. You can love deeply, work passionately, strive boldly. Because your worth isn't out there anymore. It's not on the battlefield. It's here, behind walls you built, in a peace you chose. To become resilient to winter, you have to sometimes feel the cold on purpose. That's the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort. It's training, it's not punishment, it's not masochism, it's the opposite, it's a gentle experiment. You're proving something to yourself, that you can handle a little less, that your peace doesn't depend on everything being perfect. It's like building a callus. A small, intentional friction makes the skin tougher, so a real scrape later doesn't disable you. The Stoics saw comfort as a potential trap. When life is too easy, we start to believe that ease is necessary. We begin to fear losing it. Our happiness gets quietly outsourced to the perfect temperature, the immediate meal, the fastest route. Voluntary discomfort breaks that spell. It reminds you that you are sufficient. Seneca was a master of this. He had immense wealth, but he would periodically practice poverty. For a few days, he would sleep on a hard bed. Wear simple clothes, eat the plainest food. He wrote that he did this to prove to himself that his happiness wasn't held captive by his possessions. He was testing his fortitude. To know that if fortune turned, he wouldn't be broken. He was strengthening his indifference to things outside his control. Not a cold indifference, but a serene detachment. A knowledge that these things are nice to have, but not needed for his core well-being. This practice shrinks fear. When you've voluntarily taken a cold shower, the thought of a broken water heater loses some of its terror. When you've chosen to walk instead of drive, a flat tire becomes a minor inconvenience, not a crisis. You've already felt a version of that hardship, and you survived. More than survived, you observed your own mind through it. You saw that the initial resistance passes, that the body adapts, that your character remains intact. So what does this look like now? It's small, safe, and intentional. It could be taking a cold shower for the final 30 seconds, skipping a meal and sitting with the hunger, observing it as a sensation, not an emergency. Taking a slower, more scenic route home when you're in a hurry, just to practice patience, turning off the air conditioning on a warm day and simply feeling the heat. It's not about enduring misery. It's about choosing a minor challenge to demonstrate your own inner command. The goal is to create a small gap between a desire and its immediate fulfillment. In that gap, you find your freedom, so this week choose one small act, one safe, voluntary discomfort. Maybe forego a snack you routinely crave, or leave your phone in another room for an evening. Or sleep with one less blanket. Do it not as a punishment, but as a curious scientist of your own mind. Notice the initial complaint, then notice the moment it passes. Notice the quiet confidence that emerges afterward, a confidence that whispers, "I am more than my comforts. My peace is built from within." That's how you forge an inner citadel. One that no external winter can ever truly penetrate. Other people's actions, those aren't up to us. Our reactions are. That might be the hardest part of this whole idea. Because relationships feel personal. When someone is unkind, your instinct is to correct them, to make them see, to change how they act, but that's trying to control something outside yourself. You're trying to manage their judgment, their character, their free will, and that just leads to frustration, expecting other people to act the way you want. That's one of the main sources of human misery. The Stoic shift is radical. It asks you to focus entirely on your own side, on keeping your own justice, your own kindness, your own patience, no matter what comes from the other person. Your virtue is your project, theirs is theirs. Epictetus had a piercing insight. He said when someone irritates you, it's your own judgment that irritates you. The person and what they did, those are just facts in the world. Your label, that this is insulting, that this is unfair, that this person is a problem, that label is your judgment. And that judgment is within your control. You can choose to see it differently. Take a rude colleague. They interrupt you in meetings. They dismiss your ideas. The external facts are their words and actions. Those aren't up to you. Your project is your response, your professional conduct, your emotional neutrality. You can prepare thoroughly. You can speak clearly and with respect. You can choose not to take their demeanor as a personal attack, but as a reflection of their own stress or their habits. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. You can set boundaries. You can communicate clearly about what you need to do your work, but your peace isn't contingent on them becoming a different person. Your peace is anchored in your own commitment to act with integrity, even when there's incivility. Marcus Aurelius dealt with treacherous senators and difficult generals. He wrote reminders to himself. He said, when you wake up, tell yourself you'll meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, deceitful. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But you have seen the good, so when they act that way, you can pity them, not be angry with them. Their actions can't stain your own character unless you let them. So think of a difficult person in your life right now, someone whose behavior consistently triggers a reaction in you. Now ask the key question. What judgment about them can you choose to change? Is your judgment that they're intentionally trying to hurt you? Could you change that to a judgment that they're acting from their own confusion, their own pain, their own limited perspective? This isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional hook. It's about moving the source of your agitation from outside, where you have no power, to inside, where you have complete power. Your judgment is your own. You can lay down the burden of expecting them to be different, and in that release you find a strange new strength, the strength to engage with compassion or to walk away with dignity, but always from a place of inner sovereignty. Your character remains your own construction, untouched by the storms others choose to create. Stoicism isn't about being poor, it's about being free. Whether you're rich or poor, that's the distinction, and it comes back to that idea of indifference. The only real good is virtue, your character, your wisdom. Your justice, the only real bad is vice. Everything else in the world, all of it, falls into this category called indifference. They're called that not because we don't care about them, but because they don't define our moral worth. They're neutral, but the Stoics made another distinction inside that category, a practical one. Some indifferents are preferred, some are dispreferred. Health is preferred to sickness, wealth is preferred to poverty, a good reputation is preferred to a bad one. It's natural to want these things, it's rational to seek them out. To use them well, the problem starts when we take a preferred indifferent and treat it like a true good. When we treat wealth not as a tool, but as the source of our happiness. As our identity, Seneca was one of the richest men in Rome. He wrote about this. He said, "Great wealth is a great slavery, not because having money is bad, but because the mindset of clinging to it, of fearing its loss, of defining yourself by it, that mentality enslaves you. You become a prisoner to the stock market, to economic trends, to comparing what you have with what others have. Your peace is held hostage by numbers in an account, numbers you can't fully control." Think about the modern version of that, the anxiety of checking your portfolio constantly, losing sleep over a market downturn, the pressure to keep up a certain lifestyle. In those moments, wealth isn't serving you, you're serving it. You've handed over the keys to your inner peace to something outside you, something that changes all the time. The Stoic approach is to see wealth for what it is, a preferred indifferent, a resource. It gives you security, comfort, the ability to help others, to create, to experience beauty. These are good things. Use them, enjoy them, but don't attach your soul to them. Your job is to use wealth virtuously, with generosity, with moderation, with wisdom, not to worship it. That changes your whole relationship to money. You can pursue it, you can build a business, create value. But your self-esteem isn't riding on the outcome anymore. A financial loss becomes a practical setback, not a personal failure. A windfall becomes a chance for more responsibility, not a reason for arrogance. Your core project stays the same, to act with integrity. Whether your bank account is large or small, that project doesn't change. So here's a question. If you lost your wealth tomorrow, what would be left? Strip away the job title, the possessions, the social standing. What's left? Your resilience, your capacity for hard work, your sense of humor, your kindness, your knowledge, your friendships, the ones built on something deeper than status. Those are the real assets, the ones no market crash can touch. The Stoic aim is to invest most of your energy there, in building that inner portfolio, the unshakable one. Then, whatever externals you have, abundance or simplicity, you hold them lightly, you use them well, and you remain free. Our health is something we feel very attached to. It feels personal, it feels central, but from a Stoic view, the body is an external thing. It's what we inhabit, the instrument we're given. It's not the self. Epictetus made this clear. He had a lame leg, probably from an injury when he was enslaved. He said, "You are not your body. You are the faculty that uses your body. You are the reason behind your eyes, that capacity for choice. That's what you are. The body is the horse you ride. You can care for the horse, train it, tend to it. But you are the rider. If the horse becomes lame, your job isn't to curse the horse. Your job is to guide it, given its new condition. This changes how we see health and sickness. The virtuous action is in the care we give, in the reasonable choices about food and movement and rest, in following medical advice. That effort is up to us. The outcome, whether we avoid illness or recover or face a chronic condition, that's not up to us. The body is a biological system. It's subject to genetics and age and accident, to countless things we can't control. To demand perfect health is to demand control over a system that operates by its own laws. The Stoic faces illness with courage, with a clear-eyed acceptance of the facts. Marcus Aurelius wrote about his own pains and weaknesses. He said the obstacle becomes the way, the impediment to action advances the action. What does that mean for a health challenge? It means the condition itself becomes the material for practicing patience, for cultivating resilience, for discovering a strength that isn't dependent on a perfect body. It means focusing on what you can do, not on what you can't. Think of managing a chronic condition. The virtuous path isn't bitterness, asking why me. It's disciplined management. It's showing up for treatment with grace. It's adapting your life with creativity, finding new ways to engage with meaning. It's separating your identity from the diagnosis. You are not a diabetic. You are a person managing diabetes. You are not a back pain sufferer. You are a person experiencing back pain who chooses how to respond. That subtle shift in language is a massive shift in power. Your worth, your character, your capacity for joy, these aren't housed in your cells, they reside in that inner citadel. So how can you care for your body without being ruled by anxiety? Start with one small, reasonable act of care, a nourishing meal, a gentle walk, a good night's sleep. Do it as an act of respect for the instrument you've been given, not as a ritual to ward off doom. And if illness or pain arrives, meet it not as an enemy that stole your life, but as a difficult terrain you must now cross. Your journey, your character, is defined by how you walk that terrain, with complaint and resistance, or with dignity, focusing on the path still open. That choice remains yours alone. Inner freedom isn't something you achieve once, it's something you practice every day. It's a skill you build like a muscle through repetition. And like any skill, it works best when it becomes a ritual, a simple, intentional act you do at the same time each day. This is the art of letting go but made active. It's not a passive surrender, it's a proactive decision, a conscious choice to stop carrying what was never yours to carry. Think of it as mental decluttering. Every morning or every evening, you take a few quiet moments. You look ahead at the day's likely events, a work presentation, a difficult conversation, a social gathering, and you do a quick sorting exercise. You identify specifically which parts of those events are outside your control, the opinions of your colleagues, the mood of your friend, the traffic on your commute, the final outcome of your efforts, and then you consciously release them. You might say it softly to yourself. I release my need to control how this meeting ends. I release my attachment to a perfectly smooth journey. You are not giving up on doing your best. You are giving up the exhausting burden of demanding a specific result from a world that doesn't owe you one. Marcus Aurelius began his days with a similar mental preparation. He would remind himself of what he was likely to encounter: people who are busy, ungrateful, rude. And he would tell himself, I cannot be angry with them, for they do what seems good to them. That is their business. My business is to remain kind, just, and undisturbed. He was drawing the line in advance, releasing his claim over their actions so he could focus entirely on his own. This ritual turns philosophy into lived experience. It takes the principle of the dichotomy of control and applies it to the raw material of your actual life. Before a crucial meeting, instead of steeling yourself for a fight, you perform the release. You identify your aim to present the case with clarity, logic, and respect. That is yours. You then identify the external targets, to have everyone agree, to receive immediate praise, to avoid any criticism. Those are not yours. You release them. You let them float away like balloons. You walk into the room anchored only to your intention, not to the unpredictable reactions of others. The weight lifts, your focus sharpens, because your energy is no longer divided between your effort and your desperate hope for a particular outcome. So here is an invitation. Tomorrow morning, before your day properly begins, try this release ritual. Choose just one anticipated event. It could be a phone call, a chore, a social interaction. Sit for a moment, name the event, then ask yourself, what about this is truly 100% within my power, your preparation, your attitude? Your words, your effort, acknowledge that. Now ask, what is outside my power, the other person's response, the weather affecting your plans, delays caused by other people's mistakes. Name those things specifically, and then, in your mind or even in a whisper, release them. I release my need for this call to go perfectly. I release my attachment to this person's approval. Do not rush it. Feel the symbolic act of setting down a burden. Then begin your day. You may find the event itself feels different, lighter, less charged with anxiety. Because you have already done the most important work. You have drawn the line between your kingdom and the vast, uncontrollable world outside, and you have chosen to rule wisely only within your borders. The secret is that you become powerful by surrendering the power you never really had. It's a paradox. It sounds like a contradiction, letting go of control to become stronger. The answer is in where you put your energy. When you stop spending your mental and emotional resources on things you can't control, that whole reservoir becomes free. It's available now to be invested in the only place your effort actually yields a return. Your own mind, your own choices, your own character. Trying to command the external world is exhausting. It's futile. You're like a sailor fighting the ocean itself, demanding the waves obey you. You'll tire, you'll fail, you'll feel helpless, but when you accept the ocean's nature, its vast, indifferent power, you can stop fighting the water. You can learn to read the wind instead, to adjust your sails, to navigate the currents. Your power shifts from a futile demand that the world change to a skillful adaptation. So you can move through it. The Stoics understood this. They said the wise person is the most powerful of all, not because they command armies, but because they are the master of themselves. Seneca wrote that a person who has conquered their own fears, their own anger, their own misplaced desires is truly unconquerable. No external event can defeat that person. Because their worth and their peace are not on the battlefield, they're safely within the citadel. Think of a calm leader in a crisis. A storm hits a data center, threatening a massive failure. The leader who panics, who rages against the weather, who fixates on the potential loss, is spending their power on the uncontrollable. They're trying to command the storm. The Stoic leader draws the line. The storm and the physical damage are facts. They are not up to us. What is up to us? The team's response, the communication plan, the backup protocol, the leader's own calm demeanor which steadies everyone else. By relinquishing the illusion that they could have prevented the storm, they gain the real power to guide the recovery. Their energy is focused, their mind is clear, their actions are precise. That's true efficacy. It's born from acceptance, not from resistance. So where in your life can you make this exchange? Trading the exhausting illusion of control for the liberating power of a focused response. Look at a recurring source of stress. Maybe it's a family dynamic where you keep trying to manage another person's emotions. You expend enormous energy hinting, soothing, worrying, trying to control an internal state that belongs to them. The paradox asks you to surrender that impossible task. To accept that their feelings are their own territory. Your power then flows back to you. It becomes available for your own calm presence, for setting a healthy boundary with kindness, for choosing your reaction regardless of their mood. You stop being a reactive participant in their drama. You become a grounded, intentional actor in your own life. That shift is not weakness. It's the source of immense strength. It's the quiet power of a tree that bends in the wind instead of trying to stop it and remains unbroken. Your roots grow deeper not by controlling the storm, but by knowing exactly where you stand. The master key to the dichotomy of control is your judgment. That's the supreme internal faculty, the one thing you always control. The Stoics called it prohersis, your power of choice, your capacity to give or withhold your assent to any impression that enters your mind. Everything else, the sorting and the acceptance and the inner citadel, it all flows from that single point of freedom. You can't control the first flash of an impression, that raw feeling, but you have absolute veto power over endorsing it. You decide whether to say yes, this is true and I must react, or to pause and question it. Your character is just the sum of these thousands of small, daily judgments. Epictetus brings us back to the core. He said it's not things that disturb people, but their judgments about things. When you're distressed, it's never the external event itself causing the pain. It's your own verdict on that event. Your judgment that this is bad, that this is unfair, that this should not be happening. That verdict is yours to issue, and so it's yours to retract. That's the ultimate leverage. It means your peace is never truly at the mercy of circumstance. It's only at the mercy of your own reasoning. A practical example. Imagine you're stuck in a traffic delay. The external facts are the cars, the road, the red light. They exist. The first impression might be frustration, a feeling of wasted time. That impression arrives automatically, and here's your power. You can choose to assent to that impression, to judge the situation as a personal offense, a problem ruining your day. Your body tenses, your mood darkens, or you can exercise your veto. You can observe the impression and choose a different judgment. You can judge this delay as an unexpected pocket of time. An opportunity for a moment of patience, a chance to listen to a piece of music or to just sit in silence. The external situation hasn't changed, the cars are still stopped. But your internal world is transformed because you used your lever. You chose the judgment that serves your tranquility, not the one that assaults it. This isn't positive thinking, it's accurate thinking. It's examining the initial, often irrational, judgment and asking, is this truly the only way to see this? Is this delay actually a catastrophe, or is it just an inconvenience? Is that person's curt remark a declaration of war, or is it likely a reflection of their own stressful morning? Your power lies in that interrogation, so here's a challenge. Catch one automatic negative judgment. It might be about the weather, a coworker's tone, a minor mistake you made. Notice the impression, then consciously revise the judgment. Choose to see it through a lens of understanding or neutrality or even opportunity. Don't just swap a negative thought for a positive one. Swap an unexamined thought for a considered one. In that small act of conscious choice, you aren't changing the world. You're doing something more profound. You're exercising your sovereignty. You're proving to yourself that the master key was in your hand all along. Picture your whole city from high up, then your country, then the continent, until you're looking at the whole planet in space. That's the Stoic view from above. It's a shift in perspective, a way to shrink daily dramas down to their real size. When a worry takes hold, you zoom out. You see your struggle not as the center of everything, but as one small event on a speck of dust orbiting a star. Marcus Aurelius did this all the time. He'd tell himself to look at things from above, to see the busy markets, the grand houses, the armies, and then to see how brief it all is. A single glance, he said, shows the emptiness of so much we chase. This isn't about making life feel meaningless. It's about freedom from the false weight of small troubles. That work conflict that feels huge, from a cosmic view, it's a momentary ripple among a few humans. That personal insult that stings, seen from above, it's a whisper lost in the wind. The practice connects you to something bigger than your own story. It shows how temporary all the externals are. Reputation, possessions, wins and losses. They come and go like leaves on an old tree. You're part of the tree, not just one leaf. That brings a deep humility, a deep peace. It's hard to stay furious about a delayed train when you place that train on a map of a spinning planet that's seen billions of such moments. So try it. Think of a current worry, something that feels heavy and close. Now start to rise in your mind. See the room you're in, then the building, the neighborhood. Watch it shrink as you go up, seeing the grid of streets, the city's shape against the land. Go higher until the city is a patch, the country a shape. The earth a blue marble. Hold that picture. Now find your worry inside that marble. See its actual scale. It hasn't disappeared. It's still there, but its power to take over your whole mind has been checked. Checked by the sheer size of the context you've put it in. You come back down with that wider view still inside you. The problem might need action, but the panic, the feeling of catastrophic importance has quieted. You can deal with it now, not as a universe-ending crisis, but as a finite task. A task inside a vast and beautiful existence. That's the final gift. Not just sorting what's yours to control, but seeing all of it yours and not yours within that eternal, peaceful view from above. The Stoics practiced preparing for storms. Not to live in fear of them, but to sail through them calmly. That's the core of Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds dark, but it's a tool for lightening the soul. It's not pessimism, it's a kind of mental inoculation. By visualizing potential losses, you build resilience against the shock of change. You're reminding yourself of a central truth. Nothing external is truly yours to keep. Everything is on loan. Your health, your possessions, your relationships, even your own life, they're gifts for a time. The practice is to hold them with open hands, to appreciate them fully, precisely because you know they aren't permanent. That's the opposite of taking things for granted. It's a conscious, grateful acknowledgement of their temporary nature. Seneca wrote about this. He said, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." And he noted that rehearsing poverty is what makes you truly rich. Because if you've already, in your mind, faced the loss of your wealth, you cease to be terrified by it. Your happiness is no longer chained to its presence. You become the master of your fortune, not its anxious servant. How does this work practically? It's a brief, controlled exercise. You don't dwell on catastrophe for hours. You don't feed anxiety. You bring a possibility to mind, examine it calmly, and then return to the present fortified. Take your job for a moment. Imagine receiving notice that your position is being eliminated. Feel the initial jolt, then mentally walk through the steps. You would update your resume. You would reach out to your network. You'd assess your finances. You'd begin a search. You realize you have skills. You have resilience. You've faced challenges before. The terror of the unknown shrinks. It becomes a manageable, though difficult, scenario. More than that, this mental rehearsal often sparks proactive action. That very night, you might quietly update your resume or set aside a small financial buffer. You prepare not from a place of fear, but from a place of prudent strength. The same practice applies to relationships. Think of a loved one, your partner, a parent, a close friend. For a moment, hold the thought that your time with them is finite. This isn't morbid, it's clarifying. It strips away petty grievances. It highlights what you truly value about them. That annoying habit fades into insignificance. Your gratitude for their presence swells, and when you next see them, you interact with more patience, more presence, more love. Because you're seeing them not as a permanent fixture, but as a precious, temporary gift. That's the alchemy of Premeditatio Malorum. It transforms potential future pain into present gratitude and prudent action. It proves to you, in a visceral way, that your core self can endure change. That your peace is built on something deeper than circumstance. So today, try this gentle practice. Choose one thing you value. It could be your comfortable home, your able body, or a person you cherish. Spend just 1 minute appreciating it fully, with the conscious thought that it is not yours to keep forever. Feel the depth of your gratitude for its presence right now. Then let the thought go. Return to the present moment. You haven't invited fear in. You've invited a deeper, more resilient form of appreciation. You've strengthened your inner citadel by calmly surveying the landscape outside its walls and knowing you are prepared to stand firm, no matter what the seasons bring. Freedom starts with desire. You have to get a handle on that first. Epictetus laid out 3 trainings: desire, action, assent, and he always began with desire. Because our wants, when they're unchecked, they pull us out of our own control into a world we can't command. Suffering doesn't come from not getting what you want. It comes from wanting the wrong things, from setting your heart on things outside. Approval, wealth, perfect health, a specific result. These are all outside the walls. To want them is to hand over your happiness. You're waiting on the world to pay a ransom it might never pay. So the training is to turn your desire to want only what's in your power. And what's in your power? Your own virtue, your judgment, your effort to act well. Epictetus said it directly. Don't ask for events to happen as you wish, he said. Wish for them to happen as they do, and you'll go on well. That's the shift. Success isn't the contract signed. It's the clarity you brought to the presentation. It's not avoiding criticism. It's the courage to speak your truth. It's not a life free of hardship. It's the resilience you build in facing it. When you desire only what you can guarantee, your own intention, you become invincible. Fortune can't deny you what you seek, because what you seek is up to you. Think of an athlete. They don't desire the gold medal. They desire to run their race with perfect focus. The medal is preferred, but the deepest want is for their own performance. That alignment brings a calm. The anxiety of hoping for an external result, it melts away. Replaced by a quiet confidence in the quality of your action. So take this to your own life. Find one desire tied to an external outcome. Maybe you want a promotion, or for a difficult person to change, or for a project to be praised. Now reformulate it. Shift it from the external trophy to the internal action. Instead of desiring the promotion, desire to work with such diligence that you become undeniable. Instead of desiring the person to change, desire to keep your own composure, your boundaries with consistency. You're not giving up on the preferred outcome. You're placing your fundamental happiness in the one basket you never drop, your own choice to act well. In that daily realignment, you stop being a beggar at the world's door. You become the sovereign of your own soul. Stoicism isn't about pulling back. It's about engaging with the world, but with your hands open. That's the second discipline, the discipline of action. It answers that question: if you're not controlling outcomes, why do anything? The Stoic answer is, you act because it's your nature. You're part of a community. To act with justice and kindness is the right use of a human being, but you act with that detachment. Your moral worth is in the action itself, not in how the world receives it. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this. He told himself to do what's right, as if it were your nature. He said a vine produces grapes and doesn't call for anything in return. So you do good and you don't demand applause. The vine just does what it's made to do. Your action is its own completion. That changes how you move. You become an agent of good, not for a reward, but because it expresses who you are. Think of volunteering at a community garden. The virtuous action is showing up, tending the soil, planting seeds with care. That action is complete the moment you do it with a sincere spirit. Whether the plants thrive or struggle, whether anyone notices, those outcomes are separate. They belong to nature, to weather, to chance. Your contribution was in the tending, or giving honest, kind feedback to a colleague. Your aim is to communicate clearly and constructively, to be a supportive teammate. That's your action. Whether they accept it, whether they feel defensive or grateful, that's their territory. You've done your part by speaking with integrity. The action is whole, the result is a separate event. This discipline prevents burnout, it prevents bitterness. So many people stop helping because they feel unappreciated. They stop speaking truth because it wasn't received well last time. They tie their willingness to act to a specific reaction from the world, and when the world doesn't react as hoped, they withdraw. The Stoic never withdraws, they just refine their aim. The aim is always to act virtuously within the situation presented. The world's response is just more material for the next virtuous action, maybe an action of patience or of clarifying communication. So bring this to your own day. What's one action you can take today that is good in itself, regardless of the outcome? It could be a small act of courtesy for a stranger, knowing you'll never see them again. It could be completing a task at work to the best of your ability, releasing any need for your boss's praise. It could be listening fully to someone without planning your reply. Perform that action as the vine produces grapes, not for the harvest, but because this is what you do. This is how you engage the world without being captured by it. Your hands are open, giving freely and remaining free. The final discipline is the gatekeeper. It's the scrutiny of every impression. This is the culmination of everything we've looked at, the practical art of mastering your judgments. We talked about the space between event and reaction earlier, and this is the habit, the daily, moment-by-moment practice of not being carried away by appearances. This is where cognitive control becomes real. Epictetus described the wise person as having their principles ready, like a guard at the door, questioning every impression that tries to enter. Is this visitor necessary? Is it truthful? Is it aligned with reality? You are that guard. Your power of assent is the ultimate lever. You can pull it or you can leave it be. An impression arrives, a feeling of insult, a surge of envy, a wave of anxiety about tomorrow. That impression is just a suggestion, a story your mind offers based on patterns, fears, past experiences. The discipline is to pause, to intercept that story before you endorse it as truth. This isn't about becoming emotionless, it's about becoming discerning. It's the difference between feeling a flash of anger and becoming an angry person. The feeling is the impression. The identity is the judgment you've assented to. So how does this work in daily life? Take a common scenario. You hear a piece of gossip about a colleague. The impression flashes, they did something wrong, they're untrustworthy. The undisciplined mind immediately assents. It accepts the story, spreads it, maybe adjusts its behavior toward that person. The trained mind, the guard at the door, stops the impression. It asks questions. Is this information necessarily true? What's the source? Is it helpful for me to believe this without evidence? Would believing this serve my character or my community? By scrutinizing the impression, you often find it's flimsy. It's built on hearsay or someone else's interpretation. You can then choose to withhold your assent. You don't have to believe it. You can file it away as unverified and proceed with neutrality and kindness. The external event, the words you heard, hasn't changed. But your internal world remains your own, uncorrupted by an unchallenged story. Or consider a personal worry. You make a small mistake at work. The impression rushes in. You are incompetent. You will be found out. This could ruin your career. That's a powerful, frightening story. The discipline of assent asks you to examine it piece by piece. Is one mistake equivalent to incompetence? Is it likely this single event will define your entire career? What evidence do you have from your past that you can learn and recover? By scrutinizing the impression, you shrink the catastrophic story down to its true size. A human error, a chance to learn, a finite event. Your emotional response then aligns with reality, not with a mental phantom. This practice turns philosophy into lived freedom. It's the active ingredient in the dichotomy of control. You are constantly sorting not just events but your own thoughts about them. Tonight, before you sleep, set a gentle intention. Look back on your day and identify just 3 strong impressions you experienced. A frustration in traffic, a moment of pride, a spike of social anxiety. For each one, replay the moment and ask, did I examine that impression or did I simply accept it? What was the underlying judgment I assented to? Was it accurate? This isn't an exercise in self-criticism. It's an exercise in awareness. It's training the guard to be more alert, more compassionate, more skilled. With each impression you scrutinize, you reinforce that your inner citadel is governed by reason. Not by every passing rumor or alarm. You are not a passive receiver of mental weather. You are the observer who can choose whether to step out into the storm or to watch it from a place of quiet understanding, knowing it too will pass. Your reputation isn't your reflection. It's a mirror other people hold up, and it's often distorted. That's a key use of the dichotomy. What people say about you, the opinions they form, the praise or the criticism, those are echoes. They come from their own minds, shaped by their biases, their experiences, their moods. You don't control an echo. You can hear it, but you can't command where it comes from. To a Stoic, a good reputation is a preferred indifferent. It's nice to have. It can smooth things out, open doors, feel validating. But to cling to it, to tie your worth to it, is to hand your freedom over to a crowd. You'll become a slave to shifting opinions from people you might not even respect. Marcus Aurelius faced constant flattery and slander as emperor. He wrote a reminder to himself. The praise of others is just a clapping of tongues, and the blame is the same. Both are just noises people make. They're external events, as separate from your core character as the sound of rain on the roof. Your project isn't to manage the noise. Your project is to live with such integrity that the noise becomes irrelevant, to act justly, kindly, wisely because it's right. Not because it will be seen. Think of a modern artist, a creator. They have a vision, a truth they feel compelled to express. The virtuous action is to create from that honest place. To hone their craft with diligence, that's entirely within their control. The external echo, the likes, the shares, the viral fame, the scathing reviews, that's the audience's territory. To create for the echo is to become a puppet. To create for the truth of the work is to remain the artist. It applies to any public role. A teacher's aim is to explain clearly, to inspire curiosity. Some students will be grateful, others indifferent. A manager's aim is to lead with fairness and clarity. Some team members will appreciate it, others might resent any authority. If your peace depends on universal approval, you've built your house on sand. The tide of opinion will keep eroding it. So here's a question to sit with. What would you do differently if you were completely indifferent to praise or blame? Not uncaring, but fundamentally undisturbed. Would you pursue that creative project you've been postponing? Out of fear it won't be good enough, would you voice that unconventional opinion in a meeting? Would you dress, speak, live in a way that feels more authentically you? The answer points to actions held hostage by the echo. Releasing that need for a specific reputation isn't about becoming reckless or rude. It's about aligning your energy with your own standard of excellence. Let your reputation be what it may. It was never yours to craft in the first place. Your character, though, is your lifelong sculpture, and you work on that from the inside, in a quiet studio no critic can ever enter. The past is memory. The future is imagination. The only place you have any real control is now. That's where the idea of control becomes something you can actually do. All that power you have over what you decide and what you try, it only works in the present. You can't change something you did. You can only change what you think about it now. You can't command what's going to happen. You can only prepare for it now. Anxiety and regret, they're really just the mind trying to control things it can't. Anxiety is trying to control a future that isn't here yet. Regret is trying to control a past that's already fixed. Both of those are exhausting and they don't work. Real freedom, the Stoic kind, comes from pulling your effort back from those places and putting all of it into the one place it can actually do something the present moment. Seneca wrote about this. He said we waste the one thing we actually own, which is time. We act like we have an endless supply of days. We borrow from tomorrow, we regret yesterday, and the present moment just slips away. He said to focus on today, on this hour, put things off, he said, and life is gone. The present is the only time when your ability to choose is actually working. Your past choices are facts now. Your future choices are still just ideas, but your choice right now about what to think or what to do, that's alive. That's your point of power. Take a simple conversation. You're listening to a friend, but part of you is already planning what to say next. You're trying to control how the talk will go to have the perfect reply. And in doing that, you lose the present. You miss the tone in their voice. You miss the chance for a real connection. The Stoic practice is to let go of controlling where the conversation goes. Your job is just to listen fully right now. Your response will come from that, not from a plan. The whole interaction changes because you've anchored yourself in the only part you can actually influence, your own attention. Or think about work with a deadline. The anxiety isn't about the work, it's about the future judgment of the work. It's the mind jumping ahead to the criticism, the possible failure. That jump takes energy away from what you're doing right now. The freedom is in coming back. You draw your circle of control tight around the one sentence you're writing. The one line of code, the one cell in the spreadsheet. You put your effort entirely into that. The deadline is in the future. The quality of your focus is now. By commanding the now, you build the best possible future, but you do it without the weight of trying to command the future itself. So here's something to try. For the next hour, practice this. Whatever you're doing, driving, washing dishes, reading, bring your full attention to it. If your mind drifts to a worry about tomorrow or a replay of yesterday, just notice it. That's trying to control what you can't. Then, without any judgment, bring your attention back to the feel of the steering wheel, the warmth of the water, the shape of the words on the page. Your power isn't in rewriting history. It isn't in dictating tomorrow. It's here, in this breath, in this deliberate action. This is the only place where your control is absolute. The Stoics looked at the universe and saw a rational, living whole. Your life is a thread in that. That's the logos, the divine reason that orders everything. It's the intelligence in a seed turning into a tree, the seasons turning, the laws of physics. To a Stoic, it's all connected, part of one vast organism, and that changes what acceptance means. It's not just gritting your teeth and enduring what you can't control. It's an act of trust, trusting that what happens, even the hard things, are part of a pattern too large to see completely. Your role is to play your part well, not to rewrite the whole play. That's what they meant by following nature. It wasn't about hiking. It was about aligning your will with the rational order of the cosmos. To fight what happens is to fight the current of a river you're already flowing in. It's exhausting and it's futile to flow with it while steering your own little boat with skill. That's wisdom. Marcus Aurelius kept coming back to this. He wrote that you should accept everything, even what seems disagreeable, because it leads to the health of the universe. Your closed door, your failed plan, your hardship, these might be essential turns in a path you can't yet comprehend. They're not mistakes in the script, they are the script redirecting you, the character toward what the story requires. Think of a farmer. He does his part with care. He tills the soil, plants the seeds, waters the fields. That's his effort, his domain. Then a drought comes or a flood. That's not within his control. The Stoic farmer doesn't rage at the sky as if it betrayed him. He understands the weather is part of a larger system, a natural order that includes both sun and storm. His trust isn't that the weather will always be perfect for him. His trust is that the system itself has a logic, and his task is to adapt within it. He might save what he can, plant different crops next season, find a new way to sustain his family. The hardship becomes material for practicing resilience, all within the grand tapestry of nature. Now bring that to your own life, a recent disappointment, a job you didn't get, a relationship that ended. In the immediate pain, it feels like a tear in the fabric. But what if you considered it through this lens of logos? What if that closed door wasn't a rejection, but a redirection of your energy? maybe it saved you from a role that would have stifled your true talents. Maybe it created space for an opportunity you hadn't even imagined, one more aligned with your deeper nature. The end of a relationship might feel like a collapse, but it could be making room for a different kind of connection, or for a period of self-discovery that makes you a better partner later. This reflection isn't about pretending the disappointment feels good. It's about shifting from seeing it as a random, meaningless blow to seeing it as an event within a coherent, if mysterious, whole. It asks you to loosen your personal narrative, your insistence that things should have gone your way, and to consider that your way is a small part of a much larger way. When you practice this, acceptance becomes something more than resignation. It becomes a partnership. You do your part with excellence and virtue, and you trust the universe to do its part, even when its part is hard to understand. You're no longer a lonely combatant against an indifferent world. You're a conscious participant in a vast, intelligent unfolding. And in that participation, even in letting go, you find a deeper kind of belonging. Understanding the split between what you control and what you don't, that's the first step, but living it, that's a long road. You're going to stumble. You're going to get back up. That's where philosophy stops being just a nice idea you hear about. It becomes practice. The Stoics had a word for someone on this path. They called them a prokopton, a person who's progressing. That wasn't a title for the sage, the perfect person who never makes a mistake. It was for everyone else. For the person who tries and fails and learns and tries again the next day. Your goal isn't to never feel anger or frustration or anxiety. Your goal is to notice it a little sooner. To correct your course a little faster. To make that space between the first feeling and your reaction just a bit wider, even by a fraction of a second. That's progress, that's the actual work. Seneca wrote about this in his letters. He said philosophy wasn't an intellectual game, it was therapy for the soul. And therapy takes time. He recommended a daily practice, a review of your day every evening. Ask yourself where you let something outside you disturb your peace. Where you judged something you can't control as a catastrophe. And then, the important part, do this without beating yourself up. The point isn't to punish yourself for being human. The point is to see the pattern, to learn, to resolve to do a little better tomorrow. He wrote that we should be happy with even the smallest progress. To see that even a small step is still a step forward. That's the spirit of the prokopton. You're not a finished statue, you're a block of marble. Each day's honest effort is one tap of the chisel. Think of a practical example from your own week. You're driving, someone cuts you off, the old pattern kicks in, your heart jumps, you grip the wheel. There's a flash of anger, that's the automatic impression, but then, maybe 5 minutes later, you catch yourself. You realize you're still fuming, your mood is ruined. You're telling yourself a story about that driver. In that moment of catching yourself, you have a choice. You can berate yourself for not being perfectly stoic right when it happened. Or you can recognize the progress. You noticed. That noticing is the victory. It's the guard finally showing up at the door, even if the visitor got inside already. Next time, maybe you notice after 2 minutes, then after 30 seconds. The goal isn't to stop the first flash of feeling. The goal is to shorten how long that feeling rules your mind. This path needs a lot of self-compassion. You're retraining a lifetime of mental habits. It's like learning a new language. At first, you stumble over every word. You think in your native tongue and then translate. You'll make mistakes, you'll forget words, you'll feel frustrated. But if you practice daily, eventually, you start to dream in the new language. The dichotomy of control aims to become your mind's native tongue, the language you instinctively use to interpret events. That doesn't happen overnight. It happens through 1,000 small corrections. By celebrating the tiny wins, you got through a stressful call without blaming others for your tension. That's a win. You felt envy and examined it instead of acting on it. That's a win. You accepted a change of plans without a silent complaint. That's a win. So take a moment. Look back over the last few days, not with a critical eye, but like a kind coach. Find one small area, just one, where you made even a slight bit of progress. Maybe you let go of a comment that normally would have bothered you for hours. Maybe you focused on your effort in a task instead of the unpredictable outcome. Maybe you just remembered to ask the question, is this within my control? That moment of remembering, however brief, is the seed of your inner freedom. Water that seed, celebrate it growing. For the progressing person, the journey itself, with all the stumbles and corrections, that's the expression of a life lived with purpose. And with a peace that grows, Stoic acceptance isn't about being a doormat. It's not about being a robot. That's a crucial distinction. Accepting what's not up to you doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop feeling. It doesn't mean you stop acting with all your might. It's the exact opposite. It's about directing your full energy precisely where it can make a difference. Instead of wasting it on futile resistance to facts you can't change. The confusion is often between acceptance and resignation. Resignation is a surrender of your effort. It's giving up. Acceptance, in the Stoic sense, is a clear-eyed acknowledgement of reality, so you can act more effectively within it. You accept the weather report showing a storm. So you bring an umbrella, you wear boots, you don't just stand outside getting drenched and cursing the clouds. That's the difference. You accept the fact of the storm. But you do not resign your responsibility to stay dry. The Stoics felt emotions deeply. Seneca wrote entire letters on anger, on grief. They never advocated for a cold, robotic numbness. They argued for not being ruled by those emotions, for not letting a flash of anger dictate an unjust action, or a wave of sorrow paralyze you from your duties. The goal is to feel the feeling, to acknowledge its presence, and then to guide your response with reason. Your heart may ache, but your hands can still do what is good and necessary. Look at Cato the Younger, a Roman senator, a committed Stoic. He was not a passive figure. He was a man of fierce, vigorous action. He fought politically against corruption with immense energy and principle because he believed it was his duty to uphold justice. He accepted, however, that he could not control the outcome of that fight. When the Republic fell and Caesar's victory was complete, Cato accepted that final, unchanging fact. His subsequent choice, to take his own life rather than live under a tyranny, was, in his view, the final virtuous action available to him. His entire life demonstrates that Stoic principle fuels action. It does not extinguish it. Consider a modern, sensitive scenario. A person receives a serious health diagnosis. The Stoic approach is not to shrug and do nothing, saying, well, it's out of my control. That would be resignation. The Stoic accepts the fact of the diagnosis. It is a present reality. That acceptance is the foundation. Then, from that clear foundation, they act with immense vigor within their sphere of control. They research the best treatments. They follow medical advice with discipline. They cherish the time they have with loved ones with profound gratitude. They manage their own attitude toward pain and limitation with courage. They are fighting the good fight on the battlefield where their efforts actually matter. They have accepted the war they are in so they can fight it wisely. So reflect on your own life for a moment. Where might you have confused Stoic acceptance with passive resignation? Is there a situation where you've told yourself to just accept something, when what you really meant was you felt powerless to act? The key question is this: have you accepted an immutable fact, or have you resigned your own agency? The first brings focus and power. The second brings quiet despair. True acceptance is the solid ground from which all meaningful, virtuous action springs. It is not the end of the story. It is the moment you understand the setting. So you can begin to play your part with true strength. The Stoic sage is this idea of perfect inner freedom. It's a model, not a standard. You see it in the writings, a kind of philosophical ideal. A person who's integrated the dichotomy of control so completely, their peace can't be touched, their judgment is flawless, their virtue is absolute. But it's a theoretical endpoint, like a perfect circle in geometry. You can define it, describe its properties, use it to measure your own drawings, but you'll never draw one by hand. The sage is that perfect circle for the soul. Their state is called apatheia, and that doesn't mean apathy. It means freedom from unhealthy passions. From those storms of emotion that cloud everything, the sage feels but isn't overthrown. They care but aren't enslaved by attachment. They act with energy and stay undisturbed by outcomes. This ideal wasn't meant to be a club, something to beat yourself with. It was meant as a North Star, a fixed point to navigate by, even on a cloudy night. The Stoics admitted such a person was exceedingly rare, maybe even mythical, but they pointed to historical figures. Socrates, facing his death with calm discussion, refusing to compromise his principles to save his life. Or Cato, whose integrity was so consistent it became legend. These weren't declared sages, but they were models of progress. They showed what a life aligned with reason and virtue could look like. At its highest expression, the power is in the direction, not the destination. It gives you something to aim for. In a crisis, a difficult meeting, a conflict, you can ask a simple question. How might the sage approach this, not to pretend you are one, but to orient your own compass? The sage wouldn't panic about a delayed flight. They'd assess calmly, use the time, accept the new timeline without inner complaint. The sage wouldn't answer an insult with another insult. They'd meet hostility with firm fairness, seeing the other person's action as a reflection of their state, not a verdict on their own worth. That mental exercise pulls you out of the reactive self. It creates a moment of space. It invites you to act from your highest potential in that moment. However imperfectly, so consider this: what one quality of the sage is most inspiring to you? Their courage in the face of fear, their equanimity in chaos. Their compassion that isn't drained by ingratitude. Choose one. Let that be your guide this week, in your interactions, your private thoughts, your challenges. Ask what a move toward that quality would look like right now. The goal isn't to become the star. The goal is to let its light show you the next step on your own path. The most effective therapy we have for anxiety today, it's built on something the Stoics laid out 2,000 years ago. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. It's the standard treatment. And the principle is that our emotions, our reactions, they don't come from events themselves. They come from how we interpret those events, the automatic thoughts we have. Our judgments, that's not a new idea. It's a clinical confirmation of the Stoic Discipline of Assent. The founder of CBT, Albert Ellis, he directly credited the Stoics. Epictetus especially, he took that ancient insight that were disturbed by our views of things, and he built a structured method around it. CBT calls it cognitive restructuring. It's the modern, systematic version of the Stoic guard at the door. So when you feel anxiety rising or a dip into depression, CBT teaches you to catch the automatic thought that sparked it. That thought is the impression. It's the story your mind tells instantly. I'm going to fail this presentation and everyone will think I'm incompetent. Or my friend didn't text back, so they must be angry with me. This situation is a catastrophe. The CBT exercise, often in a thought record, asks you to challenge that automatic thought. Is there evidence for this? Is there evidence against it? What's a more balanced, more realistic way to see it? That's the disciplined scrutiny of your own judgments. You're not accepting the first impression as truth. You're examining it, like Epictetus said, to see if it's a necessary or helpful visitor to your mind. Take a common social anxiety. You walk into a room and notice a few people glance at you and then look away. The automatic thought, the impression might be, they're looking at me because I look awkward. They're judging me negatively. A CBT exercise would have you write that down, then challenge it. What's the evidence? The evidence is they glanced, that's all. What's an alternative explanation? They might have looked over because they heard the door open. They might have been distracted by their own thoughts. They might have recognized you and then returned to their conversation. The more balanced thought becomes, I noticed some people glance my way, which is normal when anyone enters a room. I can't know what they were thinking, and it likely has nothing to do with me. This whole process is a practical, step-by-step application of the Stoic dichotomy. The event, the glances, that's not up to you. Your judgment about what those glances mean, that is entirely up to you, and you have the power to revise it. This bridge between ancient philosophy and modern science, it's profound. It tells us the Stoics weren't just offering wise sayings. They were describing the actual architecture of human suffering and resilience. Their map of the mind is being verified by clinical research. The thought record is just a tool to make the ancient practice of self-examination more accessible. More tangible. You can try a simplified version of this right now. Think of one recurring, stressful thought you had today. It doesn't have to be a major crisis. It could be as simple as I have too much to do and I'll never get it all done. Write that thought down or just say it clearly in your mind. Now, play the role of a gentle scientist examining the data. Ask yourself, is this thought 100% true all of the time? What's one piece of evidence that contradicts it? Maybe you've finished busy days before. Maybe some items on your list are less urgent than they feel. Now, write or state a more balanced, more accurate thought. Something like, I have a full list of tasks which feels overwhelming. I can prioritize and begin with one single step. The feeling may not vanish instantly, but its power to hijack your mind begins to weaken. You've just practiced the core skills shared by a Roman freedman and a 20th century therapist. You've taken command of the one thing you truly control, your judgment, and in doing that, you've built a small but real piece of inner freedom. A quiet life doesn't build resilience. The gym for your inner freedom, it's not a quiet library. It's the noisy world, the chaotic world of challenge and setback. That's a Stoic paradox. You want tranquility, but you find it by engaging with difficulty. Not by avoiding it. The external world, with all its friction, it's not an interruption to your path. It is the path. It's the raw material your character needs. Think about any kind of strength. Physical muscles grow by being stressed, by lifting weights that provide resistance. Mental and moral muscles work the same way. Courage can't exist in a vacuum. It needs something to be courageous about, a perceived threat, a risk, a fear to move through. Patience isn't a virtue you can practice when everything happens instantly. It needs delay, it needs waiting, it needs frustration. Your integrity is only visible when you're tempted to cut a corner. Compassion is most real when you're dealing with someone who's hard to love. The obstacle isn't just something to tolerate on the way to your goal. The obstacle is the thing that creates the goal. It forges the version of you capable of achieving it. The Stoics had metaphors for this. They said a flame is tested by the wind. A weak flame is blown out. A strong one is fed by it. It burns brighter and clearer against the darkness. Or a wrestler, they don't become strong by practicing alone. They need a tough, resisting opponent. That opponent's strength is what forces their own strength to increase. The opponent isn't the enemy of their training. They're an essential partner in it. Marcus Aurelius framed his entire reign this way. He saw the deceitful senators, the burdens of administration, the pains of his own body, not as curses but as the specific training regimen assigned to him by nature. These were the weights he was meant to lift. To build the specific muscles of an emperor: justice, endurance, self-control. Bring this from philosophy to your Monday morning, that difficult project at work. The one with the unclear deadline and the demanding stakeholder. You could see it as a miserable burden, an interruption to your peace, or you can reframe it. This project is your current personal training program. It's the exact resistance required to build your muscles of focused diligence, of calm communication under pressure, of creative problem solving when resources are thin. The project itself is external. Its difficulty is a fact, but your response, the virtues you choose to deploy, that is your internal training. The project isn't happening to you, it's happening for you, for your development. The same is true of a personal conflict. A misunderstanding with a friend or family member feels like a breakdown. But it's also a training ground. It's an opportunity to practice the muscle of clear, kind communication, to exercise forgiveness, to strengthen your ability to listen without defensiveness. Without that friction, those muscles might remain soft and unused. So here's a reflective prompt. Identify one current difficulty in your life. It doesn't have to be a crisis. It could be a persistent annoyance, a recurring stress, a relationship that requires extra effort. Now, name the specific inner muscle this difficulty is helping you develop. Is it the muscle of patience as you wait for a slow process? Is it the muscle of courage as you face a fear? Is it the muscle of detachment as you learn to care without clinging to an outcome? By naming the muscle, you transform the experience. It shifts from being something you are suffering through to something you are actively using. You're no longer a victim of circumstance. You are an athlete in training, and the world, in all its chaotic generosity, is your gym. Every piece of resistance it offers is a gift, precisely because it makes you stronger where it matters most within. When you stop trying to control everything, your life gets simpler, lighter. That constant effort to manage a world you can't command, it's exhausting. It's like trying to keep 100 plates spinning on poles you don't even own. But when you see the dichotomy clearly, you can put most of those plates down. You're left holding only the few that are actually yours. That's the practical outcome, a real simplification. Your mental energy, the energy you spent on worry, on what ifs, it comes back to you. It's freed up, it's available for what matters, and decision fatigue starts to melt away, because when your choices are filtered through one simple question, is this within my control? To act with virtue, the path often just becomes clear. You're not choosing based on 1,000 shifting opinions. You're not choosing based on unpredictable outcomes. You're choosing from a stable internal compass. And with material things, a shift happens. Possessions, when you see them as preferred indifference, they lose that emotional charge. They become tools. Or comforts, but they're not extensions of your self-worth anymore. That frantic need for more, for newer, for better, it quiets down. You own things. They don't own you. Seneca wrote about this, about the burdens we pile on ourselves. He said we suffer more in imagination than in reality, but he also said we're weighed down by our excesses. He saw busyness not as productivity, but as a kind of mental clutter. He wrote that people are frugal with their property, but when it comes to squandering time, they're wasteful of the one thing it's right to be stingy with. And he practiced this. He lived simply despite his wealth. He'd regularly examine his schedule, cutting away obligations that only served vanity or other people's expectations. The goal was to create space for reflection, for philosophy, for real connection, and that space is where inner freedom grows. You can see this simplification in action. Start with your schedule. Look at your calendar for the next month. Look at the appointments, the meetings, the social events. Ask how many are driven by a desire to control an outcome, to secure a favor, to maintain an image, to avoid disappointing someone whose opinion you can't control. Each one of those is a plate you're spinning. So you apply the dichotomy. You ask a gentle question. Is my attendance here within my control? Of course it is. But is my reason for going tied to managing something external? If the answer is yes, that's a candidate for a respectful no. You simplify your time by filling it only with actions chosen for their own value, not for their hoped-for effect on things outside you. The same filter works for possessions. Walk through your home, look at the items on the shelves in the closets, ask how many were acquired to control a feeling, to project a status, to fill an emotional gap, to keep up with a trend set by others. Each of those items carries a tiny mental weight, a subtle demand to be managed and maintained and worried about. Seeing them as indifference lets you ask a different question. Does this serve a purpose aligned with my values, or is it here because I thought it would control something it never could? Letting go becomes an act of freedom, not loss. Your digital life is another territory. The endless scroll, the constant notifications, they often feed this illusion that by consuming more information, you're gaining more control. Over the news, over your social standing, over your knowledge. It's a frantic attempt to manage an unmanageable stream. Simplifying here means consciously choosing your inputs. It means turning off alerts that hook you into other people's dramas. It means limiting consumption to what genuinely informs your own sphere of action. You reclaim your attention, which is the most precious resource you have. So this week, choose one area: your schedule, your possessions, or your digital consumption. Apply the dichotomy as a filter. For each commitment, each item, each app or news source, ask, am I trying to use this to control something outside myself? If the honest answer is yes, that's your signal. It's a plate you can carefully, gratefully set down. You don't need to throw it, just stop spinning it. And in that single act of release, you'll feel the lightness return. You'll see that a simple life isn't about having less. It's about being freed from the endless, exhausting project of having to manage everything. For centuries, people have found this same liberation. Roman emperors, modern soldiers. It's that simple split, the dichotomy of control, and it's not some lonely exercise. It's a human journey. You're walking a path. Countless others have walked it across time, across cultures. This philosophy wasn't kept in an ivory tower. It was lived in the chaos of the Roman Senate, in military camps, in marketplaces, and today that community is global. It's in online forums, people from every continent talking about daily applications. It's in local reading groups, meeting in libraries and coffee shops. Every year, thousands do Stoic Week, a global event. They practice the principles together. They share challenges, breakthroughs that normalizes the struggle. It reminds you, the frustration when you try to let go, the slip-ups, the moments of clarity, those aren't your personal failures. They're universal, growing pains, a mind learning to see the world more clearly. There's comfort in that, knowing you're not building this inner citadel alone. You have fellow architects. Some are just laying the foundation. Others are working on the higher walls, but everyone is in the same construction project. A self-governed life. Take Marcus Aurelius. He wrote his meditations in private, probably never meant for anyone else to read them. It was his personal dialogue. His nightly review, his reminders, and yet those private words now guide millions. They connect a second-century emperor to a software engineer in Seoul. A teacher in Buenos Aires, a nurse in Cape Town. His solitary practice became a communal anchor. That's the paradox of inner work. The most personal journey creates the deepest connections. Because when you work on mastering what is yours, you become less burdened by what is not. That lightness lets you engage with others more authentically. With less neediness, more genuine presence. If you feel the pull toward this path, lean into the community. It can be simple, joining the discussion on a Stoic app. Reading how others apply a daily quote to their real conflicts, or a subreddit, people posting weekly reflections, where they succeeded, where they stumbled with the dichotomy. You don't have to agree with every interpretation. The value is seeing the philosophy in action through the lens of 100 different lives. It reinforces the practice. It gives encouragement on days when your resolve feels thin. So here's an invitation, a small step. In the comments, consider sharing one insight from this exploration. One thing that resonated: it doesn't have to be profound, it could be simple. The moment you realized your anxiety was often about trying to control another person's opinion. Or the relief you felt when you consciously released an outcome you couldn't command. By sharing it, you do two things. You solidify that insight for yourself by putting it into words. And you might offer a spark to someone else reading, someone who thought they were struggling alone. Your voice adds to the chorus, a chorus that's been singing this tune of freedom for 2,000 years. Each person finding their own harmony within it. The philosophy is in your hands now, and the question is what you'll do with it. All this understanding, this map of what's yours and what isn't, it's still just theory. Until you take a step, until you make the choice to live it. Epictetus asked his students a direct question. If you didn't learn these things to demonstrate them in practice, what did you learn them for? Learning isn't the destination, it's the tool kit. Your life is the construction site, and you're the only one who can pick up a tool and begin. So we move from learning to doing. This is an invitation to freedom, a concrete, personal commitment, not to overhaul your whole life in a day, but to choose one single practice from everything we've explored. And commit to it with intention for a defined period. 1 week is a powerful place to start. It's long enough to see patterns, to feel resistance, to notice a shift. But it's short enough to feel manageable, a focused experiment in applied philosophy. What could that commitment look like? It has to be specific. It can't be vague. It can't be, I'll try to be more stoic. That's too broad. The power is in the precision. For example, you might commit to the morning release ritual. For the next 7 days before your day begins, you sit for 5 minutes. You identify the one external outcome you're most anxious about that day, and you consciously, verbally, release your attachment to it. You say to yourself, I release my need to control this outcome. I anchor myself to my effort alone. Or maybe you choose the discipline of desire. You take one specific goal that feels heavy with expectation. A work project, a fitness aim, a creative endeavor, and for 1 week you reformulate your entire desire. You shift it from the external trophy to the internal action. Your commitment is not to achieve the goal. Your commitment is to desire only the quality of your own effort, to want to work with focus, to train with consistency, to create with honesty. You let the result be what it may. Another powerful commitment is to apply the dichotomy to a single, recurring relationship, to one specific person whose actions consistently trigger a reaction in you. For 7 days, your practice is this. Every time you think of them or interact with them, you silently draw the line. Their mood, their words, their choices, those are in their territory. My judgment, my response, my peace, these are in mine. Your commitment is to guard that border with kindness but with absolute clarity. This is how philosophy becomes lived. It's in the daily, gritty application. It's in catching yourself reaching for control and gently pulling your hand back. It's in the quiet victory of a deep breath when you feel the old urge to worry about what you can't change. So here's a reflective prompt, a direct question for you. What is your one commitment? What is the single, specific practice you'll carry into the next 7 days? State it clearly, either in the comments below or write it down on a piece of paper for yourself. There's a unique power in declaring an intention. It moves it from the realm of thought into the world of action. By sharing it, you join a community of practice. You find accountability and shared purpose. By writing it for yourself, you make a contract with your future self. You mark the beginning of a new way of being. This is your invitation. The map is drawn. The tools are laid out. The first step is a choice only you can make. Choose one thing, commit to it for 7 days, and observe what happens not in the world around you, but within the quiet borders of your own mind. That's where the architecture of true freedom is built. One conscious, deliberate brick at a time. The journey from that first split to inner freedom is the whole path. It starts with a line. On one side, you have your judgments, your effort, your will. On the other side, everything else, the whole world, the practice is learning to stand on your side of that line. While the world does what it does, that's where freedom comes from. Not from changing the world, from changing your relationship to it. This isn't freedom from hardship. It's freedom within hardship. It's the sovereignty you find when you stop trying to govern territories that were never yours. We've walked through the steps, the sorting that brings clarity, the acceptance that ends a war, reframing obstacles as the material that builds resilience. The daily disciplines that train the mind like a muscle to return to what is truly its own. These pieces connect. Your focused judgment is the lever. The peace of deep acceptance is the result. The strength forged in adversity is the proof. They're not separate ideas, they're different facets of the same thing. A life lived in alignment with what is, and with a fierce commitment to your own virtue within it. Marcus Aurelius captured this in his private writings. He wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And then he added, "For the rest is either past or future. Your will is what remains." Your capacity to choose your judgment right now, that is the seat of your freedom. That is the source of a happiness nothing outside can give or take away. A happiness found in a virtuous will. So as we close, carry one question forward. Let it be a quiet light in your daily moments of stress, of ambition, of conflict. The question is this up to me? When frustration rises, ask it. When anxiety whispers, ask it. When pride swells or regret weighs heavy, ask it. Is this thing I'm reacting to? Is this outcome I'm craving? Is this opinion I'm fearing? Is it truly, entirely within my power to command? If the answer is no, that's your signal. Your invitation to release, to accept, to adapt, to redirect your energy back to the only ground you can ever truly hold, your own reasoned choice in the present moment. That practice, repeated, is the architecture of an unshakable life. Thank you for walking this path. If these ideas resonate, consider subscribing. More practical philosophy is ahead. Turning ancient wisdom into tools for modern life, and share your thoughts in the comments. What was your one key takeaway, your one commitment? This isn't a solitary journey. It's a conversation, a community of practice building our inner citadels together, one conscious choice at a time.